looking at? Good Thursday evening, one and all. Welcome to Thursday Night Geeks. Why do we call it Thursday Night Geeks? Well, it's Thursday, it's nighttime, and we are geeks. Great to be with you, everyone. Bill Smith here, along with five-time AVN Award winner Dan Davidson, for yet another installment. And buddy, it's great to see you today.
It's good to see you too, man. I have been looking forward to tonight because I need some positivity and some fun because I am depressed and hopeless and not doing well. So it's good to see you. Good to see everybody joining in as they come on to the live feed. And I'm looking for some fun discussion tonight because I think we all need it.
Well, breaking news from Trek Geeks Command Central. We are live on Instagram tonight.
Whoa, nice.
In addition to Facebook and the tube of you. Although I don't know that I'd want a tube of you. So
you say that now.
You can consume Thursday Night Geeks in all of the places, Dan.
I like it. I like it. I know that last week there was a problem with it, and I don't think it was anything that we were doing. It was just it just wasn't working last week, and I'm glad to see that there are a lot of Instagrammers out there. Is that what they call them? Is it Instagrammers?
It's whatever you want, buddy.
All right. That's what we're going to go with tonight. So, yeah, it's good to have everybody from all the platforms. I hope we have some great comments tonight about our topic and what people think on their side of things. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. As I said, we're not going to dwell on it. But today's been a tough day. I'm wearing my Confederacy badge because I think that's what we've turned into. The White House might as well have Nazi flags flying from it right now. Today is the anniversary of my layoff from UKG a year ago.
Yes, it is.
And today is also the first day of the last day of the United States of America. So it's a good day all around, I guess, if you want to look at bad shit on the 3rd of July. So, yeah, there we go.
I just want to point out, Blake Strike, cut it out. Wasn't Australia a penal colony at one point?
Down under.
Down under. Rise of Blake.
It's funny that Blake says that because with my new job, they are based in Australia. So a lot of customers that I work with, it's tomorrow for them when I talk to them. So it is still a little weird to figure out. So today I said, I hope your Friday is going great, but it's actually yesterday. I said, I hope your day's going well, but I got the days mixed up because it was already the next day there. So as confusing as it can be.
Good evening, Steve. Good evening, Burley. Hello, Helen. Jen, thank you for being here. Brother Jason, great to have you aboard, buddy. Of course, Willow's in attendance. It wouldn't be Thursday night without her. Mm-hmm. Grand Love is back. Thanks for being here. Phil, good to have you aboard. Dan, the one and only
oh my God.
Matt McGonigal is in attendance.
Matt McGonigal.
You know, it's funny because a while ago I bought from Fark this 3-figure action set.
I've never seen that.
Kirk, Baylock, and Baylock's dummy. And every time I see little Clint Howard as an action figure, I think of Matt McGonigal.
Yes, Matt McGonigal does the best impersonation of Baylock's laugh you will ever hear. So, yeah.
And of course, he who designed the Trek Geeks Delta, Aaron Harvey, in the house. Aaron, good to have you here, brother.
A masterpiece. It should be in the Louvre, I think, hanging up in
Your
its own little room.
face should be in the Louvre.
Well, that's true.
Wait,
Also,
that didn't.
yes.
That didn't. And thank you, Metalhead Last Thursdays are better because of these live videos, despite the fact that Dan Davidson is aboard.
Wow.
Dan, normally at this point I
Good of
ask
you.
you what you're drinking, but I'm actually going to start.
Yes, go right ahead.
You know what this is, Dan?
Looks like it's either bourbon or whiskey.
It's
And you probably
bourbon.
got a Trek Geeks ice cube in there, I'm thinking.
I do. It's Frey Ranch uncut. It's even stronger than the original,
Nice.
based on the events of today.
Very nice.
Vikram, good to have you here. Thank you for being here on
God, I
Thursday
haven't
night.
seen you in a while, buddy. How you doing?
So, what are you drinking tonight, Daniel?
I'm just going with a regular mule. Just a Moscow Mule. It's got the cherry limeade vodka that I talked about, I think, last time, which I really like. So that's what I'm doing with. I was going to do something really strong, but you know what? It's not going to help. So I just figured I'd do a regular mule tonight. So that's what I'm
My
doing.
sinuses are opening up after one sip. It's heaven.
That's great.
Remind me to drink this the next time I have a cold. It's just like wham.
I think after the show, maybe I'll go downstairs and I'll do a smoked whiskey. We'll see.
Is it going to be actual whiskey or that green apple crap?
It'll be actual whiskey, but it's going to be probably the same brand. It's going to be Crown because I got like 4 Crowns in there.
Aaron, we promised that we're done.
Yes, that's what we're going to say. Yeah,
it's we promise we're done. We won't do it anymore. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We have an interesting topic tonight. This is one I've wanted to do for a while, and one you haven't wanted to do. Largely because I'm a cantankerous old man, and you're just the AVN award-winning Dan Davidson. So, Dan, tonight we're talking about our unpopular Trek opinions.
Mm-hmm. It should be a great conversation because we've always talked about the fact that everybody's opinion is correct because it's your opinion.
It's theirs.
But exactly. But we have gotten comments on things that we've said over the 10 years as we celebrate Trek Geeks 10-year anniversary. I'm going to throw that in there. Of like, wow, I can't believe you said that or something like that. So tonight we decided to just bring up some of the things that we've talked about or maybe not talked about on the show, just to see what people think. I know I had a couple of them that I've never talked about that I put in my list. So it's going to be an interesting conversation. And we want to see people put their unpopular opinions in the chat as well, so we can talk about it and bring them up on screen because we already saw one from before we even went live.
Let me bring that up. Let me bring that up from Steve.
So it'll be great to see everybody. Go ahead.
I can't see it now.
Let us know. Oh, is it scrolled away?
It went away. Steve, you'll have to type it back into the chat. For some reason, when we went live,
I can read it right now because I think I see it right here. Yes.
Okay.
Hates. Was this Steve's? Hates
Horizon?
the saucers. Yeah. Hates the saucer separation. Should not be a thing.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Very interesting.
The key thing to keep in mind tonight is that it's okay to disagree. You may have a different opinion. They're all valid. None of this means we hate any of the things we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Some will be positive, some will be negative, but overall, we love Star Trek. We're going to watch it. So we feel like we should, continually, state that, and we probably will many times throughout tonight.
And I like the fact that these are things that are going to be fun to talk about, even if they're not what the vast majority of people might agree with, which I think is going to be kind of cool. It'll be interesting to see people like, yeah, I agree with you, Bill, or no, Dan, you're stupid as always. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Oh, it's definitely going to be Dan, you're stupid as always. So, of course, we want to mention that it's Thursday night, so we are presented by Fansets. We couldn't be happier to have that partner in podcasting and live streaming. And slight housekeeping note. So you will actually see Thursday Night Geeks repurposed as the Trek Geeks podcast pretty much with every episode now.
Yes.
Our schedules for work are crazy. And it's harder to find a separate time to record a full-on episode of Trek Geeks in addition to doing Thursday Night Geeks every week. So we will try to keep this as true to the Trek Geeks format as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And when we drop the audio, of course, there will be the standard outtake at the end, which we'll record after the fact. Because it's much easier to squeeze in 15 minutes to do that than it is 2 hours to do Trek.
Yeah, and along those lines, I want to throw in, Bill mentioned it. It's not that we don't want to do it, but we talked about my layoff just a few minutes ago, and then you got laid off a year before me, and our new jobs, the schedules are vastly different than they used to be. There's not as much flexibility as we used to have. We want to put the content out. It's not like we don't want to do it, but unfortunately, it's a reality. And wow, Kryptonite Creations,
JC throwing some shade. I love
kick him
it.
out. He's done. Where's that kick out button?
Do you see over my right shoulder? There's a new addition to
yes,
the shelf.
that's very nice.
My
I do
Horgon
see that.
arrived today.
Well, you need some Shamaharon, my friend.
And there's, yes, I do. And there's something else that we'll talk about later during the ad break. So,
Yes.
Because you don't even know about this yet, Dan.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Because
I didn't see my package didn't arrive today.
Well, I guess you should attend more staff meetings. So Garcia's in the control room. He's going to reset the table. We'll be right back in a minute with unpopular opinions in Star Trek on Thursday Night Geeks. Stay right there.
Cheers.
One of these days, Garcia is going to screen record what I do during the breaks when the music is playing. You know, it's I felt like we should have had a rave going. I needed a mirror ball and a strobe light.
Yep. That would have been good.
Garcia, blink twice if you're still awake. So Dan, unpopular opinion. So you and I mean, we're like every other fan in the universe. We have opinions about things that have happened over the 59-year history of Star Trek. Hard to believe we're celebrating 59 this year. And wait a second, let's take a look at the countdown.
My goodness, it's gonna be in the 30s somewhere.
33 days we will be in Las Vegas.
Almost
Larry Bird. Yeah.
Yes. Very nice.
Dave Gregory sums it up greatly. Whoop whoop. Thank you, Dave.
Can I do it? Can I do it?
You may.
Unpopular opinions are not dangerous.
For those of you listening, Vikram posted unpopular opinions are not dangerous. So thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice. I've done that in a while.
We've each come up with a series of unpopular opinions, things that, you know, we believe as Star Trek fans. And again, we're not calling anyone else wrong. We're not saying that, we're right necessarily. This is the way we feel about certain things. You may agree with some of them. You may get pissed off by some of them, and that's fine. Know that we're not trying to take a piss on Star Trek, and we're not trying to ruin your fandom.
Right. I'm going to throw a crazy Ivan in right now.
Sci-Fi Sisters in the house, by the way.
They are. Of course they are.
Woo, summer camp. Anyway, yes.
Unpopular opinion.
Crazy
Section 31 was awesome. I'm just kidding. It really wasn't. It's not even an opinion.
We didn't say lie to the audience.
Yes. True.
So I thought by kicking this off, I would start first. So
yes,
I will
absolutely.
take the first arrow.
Yep.
The pioneers always take the arrows, Dan, as Chris Berman usually says on Monday Night Countdown when he was doing it. I'm going to bring this up really quickly, and then I will expound on my thought, and everybody else will have a chance to respond.
Okay.
To me, Lower Decks isn't canon, nor is there any way it can be. I say that because it is far too self-referential to Star Trek. There are too many in-jokes for fans. And the idea that Starfleet would be so incompetent that there would need to be a second contact division of lower class ships is absurd. I love Lower Decks. It is one of my favorite Star Trek shows. But there's no way I consider it the same canon as Star Trek The Next Generation or Discovery or Deep Space Nine or Voyager or any of them. Simply just because it is designed to be absurd.
Okay, so that was going to be my question. I was going to ask you is because of the comedy aspect of it and how things are sometimes a little extreme is why you're having this opinion, because, and I don't mean to offend anyone, and I know, and Aaron, this is aimed at you, and I'm not saying this in a negative way at all. Based on Lower Decks being canon, would you also say that TAS is not canon, or it is because it's completely different?
It is, because it's completely different. It's actually a continuation of the original series.
Okay, just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Those are original adventures, you know,
Yep.
but Lower Decks, as awesome as it is, as funny as it is, I don't think can be canon just for how tongue in cheek it approaches everything.
Okay. Do you
That
think that
that's my
some
feeling.
aspects of it could be canon, like the whole Pac-Led storyline and the Locarno stuff and all of those type of things that happened? You just think that all in all, it just is not something that you consider canon.
No, for me, I can't. If one part of it, isn't canon for me, the whole thing really can't be canon.
Mhm.
Because just all of the collection of things, and even in the first episode, there's a nomad in a
Yeah, in the
closet.
closet. Yeah.
It's just it's supposed to be absurd. I get it. I love it too. I mean, it got me through the that part of the pandemic. It kept me laughing. I
Mhm.
still laugh at it today when I watch it,
Yeah.
but there's no way I can consider it canon.
That's interesting, and I don't think that's a bad opinion, dude. I consider TAS canon. Um, I have never even thought of whether or not I think of Lower Decks as being canon or not. That's something I'm going to have to put some thought into because it literally has never crossed my mind.
Well, let's go through some comments.
Yeah.
Um, uh, yes, Steve, it's opinions about everything, whether it's in universe or about the universe that has been created.
Hmm.
Sci-Fi Sisters, the inner light is trash. I love this opinion.
Wow.
I don't
Okay.
necessarily hold it, but I don't think
Yeah.
it's as revered. I think it's more revered than it ought to be.
Okay.
Joel says Section 31 is not the worst Trek movie, though. I don't agree with that. Um, Joel also says Lower Decks is the real canon, is a better unpopular opinion. Interesting.
Oh, that is very interesting. I like the way
Interesting.
that's put. Yep.
Steve also wants to fight me, and because he's younger and presumably faster, I'm assuming he's going to win.
Yes.
Um, Jeffrey Scott. Jeffrey, welcome to the show. Not so much an opinion as a theory, but I think O'Brien maintains a white hot hatred of the Cardassians and wears a necklace of forehead spoons under his uniform.
Wow. Forehead
Um,
spoons, not
I can
Cardassian
see
neck
that.
bones.
Matt McGonigal says, so Bill hates cartoons. Kiss my
That's
ass,
awesome.
McGonigal.
That's great.
Yeah,
Cool.
and here's a great example. The Tom Paris plate is not canon.
Mhm.
There's no way in hell it can be.
Right. That's true. That's a very good point.
Yvette is judging tonight.
I want to go back to the Cardassian thing with O'Brien for a second.
Yeah.
That's a great take on that because we've really only seen his how he can't stand the Cardassians really in only one episode. There's stuff in Deep Space Nine that shows that he has he still has some issues, but nothing like that one episode with it's escaping me right now because I got a bunch of things I want to talk about in my head. But it's funny that that hatred is never really shown other than that one episode. And it makes you it makes me and I will be honest, in that episode, all the stuff he was talking about when he was in the war didn't sound like it was real. I mean, it didn't sound it didn't sound like he was reading from his own mind of what happened to him. It
Yeah.
just sounded like he was just spouting off stuff. I don't know. I don't know if that's the right way to describe it or not, but it just didn't seem genuine. That's the word I'm looking for. So
Yeah,
the
the
wounded.
episode The Wounded. Yes. Thank you,
Thank you,
Garcia.
Garcia. Yep.
Garcia with the on the spot fact checking.
Fantastic episode too.
Aaron, I can appreciate this. He says, for me, Lower Decks is canon, and we're seeing it through a comedic lens, kind of like when you tell your friends a story and embellish all the details. I respect that. I
Yeah.
just, like the Tom Paris plate. For me, it doesn't work. I get that it does for pretty much everybody else, and I respect
Mhm.
that.
Cool.
But I can't do it. So
Good. That's a good first one, man. I like it.
thank you. And luckily, no arrows. I feel pretty lucky. Are you ready for your first unpopular opinion, Dave?
I am ready for my first unpopular opinion. It should be interesting to see what the reaction is.
Dan
Yes.
says the Dominion is a better villain than the Borg.
Yep. I've always loved the Dominion. Now let me set the record here. I think the Borg are a fantastic villain. They are a scary villain. For me, the Dominion is a better villain because the Borg have one goal, one mission. You know what it is. You know how they're going to do it. There's nothing you can do to stop them. The Dominion is devious. They are slimy. They will undercut stuff. They have the caste system in place to do exactly what they need to do to accomplish their goal at whatever cost. The Borg, it's one thing. The Dominion, it's a whole lot more, and it's a whole lot more complex. So I think for that reason, the complexity of that character, the Dominion, makes them a better villain than the Borg to me. Now, that being said, what happened in Picard season 3 and all the stuff that we saw in Best of Both Worlds and all the other stuff with the Borg over the years is awesome. But the Dominion to me is just on a different level of what a villain can be like in Star Trek.
Joel makes this point, and I think I kind of agree with him. That doesn't seem to be very unpopular. I'm going to say that I don't necessarily agree, because while the Dominion were great and they were great for Deep Space Nine, I think the Borg is a better threat, both universally and existentially. Because we were at risk of the Alpha Quadrant being taken over by the Dominion. We were at the risk of humanity losing everything that makes humanity a thing with the Borg. But I get it. I mean, I get why you say that. I can appreciate your reasons, but I don't know that I'm there.
Yeah, the it's hard to differentiate the two. The terror aspect of the Borg always going to be the top. I mean, they are scary. And I'm glad that they brought the scariness back into them in later shows and stuff like that. But the whole idea of how the Dominion can do what they do, like infiltrating Starfleet with changelings to look like like people that they've captured stuff. Just that whole idea, I just think is a great way to tell a story other than you're going to be assimilated and you're going to help us destroy anything we come in contact with. I just thought the complexity and the detail of what happened with the Dominion is something I could really sink my teeth into and enjoy more than, oh, here comes a cube.
Okay, that's fair.
Now, with that being said, it is interesting to me that on every page that I researched and read about stuff, the Borg is the number one. It's number one everywhere. They will always be the number one baddie in Star Trek. But I just think the Dominion was a more complex and better one.
Dave actually brings up one that I've never agreed with, and the Borg have been overdone like a Southern diner egg, too watered down. I don't think they've been overdone. I think that Voyager didn't treat them the best way, where they weren't as fearsome.
Yeah.
I think that, I think that season 3 of Picard managed to undo a little bit of that. But the Borg are Picard's greatest enemy. There's no way that his story couldn't end with the Borg. It had to happen. It was a necessity.
Yeah. Now, and for all those people that are trying to decide which opinion's better, that's one of the things that I loved so much about the big reveal in Picard season 3. Spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen it for whatever reason. Having them work together was genius for the writing. I thought that was great, having those two bad guys teaming up to try to get that long con taken care of with the Federation. I thought that was just ingenious, because what you talked about a few minutes ago, it brought an enemy that was pretty much only specific to Deep Space Nine into the greater Star Trek universe, and I think it really worked well when they blended them together for a specific feeling and mission.
Somebody gave Garcia access to a keyboard, and he says, I feel the Dominion is a better rounded enemy versus just a wave of destruction. Well, that's why he's in the control room.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So that's what I think.
Great job. And Matt's comment is kind of spot on. The Borg are number one due to the success of TNG. 5-year mission. Shut up, Park, or whoever, or Mike, or whomever this is. I love Voyager. It doesn't mean that they didn't write the Borg the best.
They wussified the Borg in every way they could have. I'm sorry, they did.
Yeah. The Borg were the subject of a feature film, with TNG. Was the Dominion? No. Point made.
Wow. Well, they mentioned him though in Insurrection.
Yeah, in most of that scene was cut. In the library. Since when does the Enterprise need a library? They all have tablets and pads in their hands all the time. Anyway, we're going to move on to my number 3. And this is one that I'm sure is going to get me a bunch of hate outside of these video walls. It's one that I've thought a lot about. And before I'll bring it up on screen and then I'll talk about it and defend it. There is no such thing as Spurk. Now, before people get upset, I understand where the whole legend of Spurk comes from. Okay. I love the fact that people have gotten creative with, with fan fiction and created this aspect of the Kirk and Spock characters where there was a romantic involvement. I think it's a wonderful extension of, the creativity that Star Trek inspires. But Kirk and Spock are brothers first and foremost. They've served together. They've been in the shit more than once, and they have a mutual respect and love for one another that isn't romantic. I kind of liken it, Dan, to yours and my relationship. You and I are both happily married. Obviously we've never been romantically involved and never will be, but I love you like a brother, just like I love Matt McGonigal as a brother and Chris Mumphrey, because we've all shared this common experience and this bond that brings us together. You think about the end of Star Trek V, where they're that hideous Star Trek V, which is not as bad as Section 31. And, Kirk is like, I lost a brother once. I'm glad I got him back.
Yeah.
And that speaks volumes for what Spock means to him. Spock is his family. Spock wasn't his lover. So, I'm not looking to offend anybody, but, for my fandom, I really can't take the notion of a Spurk seriously because it's not in the canon makeup of those characters.
I'm just sad that there's no Dill or
I'm not
or Ban.
I'm not.
And Vikram just said that. Oh my god, that's funny. We were thinking the same thing. I gotta say, dude, I agree with you on this 100%. I appreciate the fandom and fan fiction and everything like that. I have never thought of Kirk and Spock that way, ever. Not even when we see the memes online and read the stories and everything. You're exactly right. They are family. They are brothers. It has never crossed my mind once that there is a romantic relationship between the two. And so to me, that is not an unpopular opinion at all for that one that you came up with. I agree with it 100%.
I don't think that Spurk founded all modern fandom because there was a Star Trek fandom before there was a Spurk. And there are still a large number of people who have never heard of it, like in this chat. And that's fine. I do think that sort of fan publications and fan magazines and what turned into internet fan fiction is absolutely based on Spurk and kind of gets its genesis from that. But if I look at who these characters are and the way they were written, there is no way that would have been part of something canon.
I agree. I do agree. Now there are going to be people outside of who we're talking to live tonight that are going to be very pissed off about that opinion.
Yeah.
I know that over the course of the last 10 or 15 years, when we made great strides in acceptance and universal love and all that, it's a great thing to talk about, but it's just not something that I have ever even once considered being a thing between Spock and Kirk.
And I'm not averse to shipping in general or relationshiping characters together. There are times when Star Trek has done it in canon where it hasn't made sense to me. Worf and Troy, hello. And there are other times where they've done it and it makes perfect sense. Worf and Jadzia, okay. But, I think that there are plenty of times where fans will insert their own shipping and it takes on a life of its own. And that's fantastic. It's an extension of their fandom. It's what they love about Star Trek. And I love it. But, for me, it's not the kind of thing that I can see.
Yeah, I love that one, man. I think that's That's awesome. So far, the best one. Of course, I've only seen 2, but that's pretty good.
And Aaron's really hitting home runs tonight.
He is.
No Spurk, and a really unpopular opinion, Data is not a representation of autism. You might interpret that, but that was not the intent. Just like there was no romance between Kirk and Spock.
I've never interpreted it like that either.
I think people have, as the years have gone on. I've never saw it that way.
Yeah.
I just thought that, Data was an android.
Right.
Learning what it meant to be human. Now, I'm sure that there are modern day parallels to that. And for those who find comfort and solace in that, I love that. Yep. They feel represented, and I'm all for representation. I just don't think that this is actually a thing.
Yeah. Agreed. Yep.
Okay. Well, we're cruising through these. And so far, no death threats, which is good. Although you did send me a nasty message a minute ago that said, "I will kill you in your sleep," but that's
wow. Can I see? Can you show that on screen, please?
No, it's already gone away from my notifications. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So, Dan, your next unpopular opinion.
Yes, I don't even know what it is. Here we go. Oh, yes.
The Kelvin universe movies are spectacular, and I thought I'd leave the next part off so that you could say it yourself, and also because there's so much real estate on the screen,
including Into Darkness.
Yes.
Yes. I love the Kelvin universe movies. I absolutely love them. I love the lens flare. I love the character development, the special effects, the action, the big budget explosions, R2-D2 flying through the wreckage of an explosion, all that stuff. I love the Kelvin movies. I have appreciated them. We wanted something on the screen for so long again, and we got it with the reboot. And I still get chills when that granite looking Delta comes turning on screen after that first scene with the Kelvin. They're awesome. They are great. I think they are great movies for people to be introduced to Star Trek if they're new to it and they want to have an idea of what the big budget movies can be like, but still have this universe. There are flaws. There are flaws in everything. As somebody said earlier, Inner Light's one of my favorite episodes. It's a flaw. There's flaws in it. There's flaws in every single thing of every episode. There's something. But Kelvin Universe, I will always defend the Kelvin Universe movies. I just love them.
5-year mission with the comment of the night so far. Dan is dead to me.
Okay.
You're gonna get sued.
Who said
again?
that? Who said that?
5-year mission.
Yeah. Who? Yeah. Okay.
Wow. What a jerk.
Hey, they're dead to me, right? Or wait a minute, the other way around.
You're dead to them.
So I'm not really saying anything to them, right? Because I'm dead. So whatever.
I can't. Guys, I haven't had enough bourbon to deal with you. I love the Kelvin movies unironically, and honestly, I mean, back when we really first started TrekGeeks.com, right? When we were still trying to figure out what Trek Geeks was going to be, I wrote like a 3,000 word blog post on Into Darkness and how it is a great treatise on the dangers of imperialism and why revenge is not a reason to start a war. Because it really does deal with those themes, I think, quite effectively, especially in a post 9/11 world. I think that there are some choices that were made creatively with that movie that I'll never understand, and no one understands the whitewashing of Khan. But other than that, I actually enjoy Into Darkness quite a bit.
Yeah, I do too. Do me a favor, dude. Scroll up and bring up Steve's comment about the opening of Star Trek 2009, if you could. I'd like to see everybody to see that because he is absolutely correct. Unbelievable cold opening.
Don't forget to read it.
The opening. For those not viewing, the opening to Star Trek 2009 is probably my favorite cold open to a movie of all time. He's not wrong. I love that cold opening. It is fantastic. And to be reintroduced on the big screen, I remember, I'll never forget it. We were at an IMAX theater to see this. And that open in that theater was absolutely incredible. I think we did 3D too, if I remember correctly. I'm not 100% sure of that. So yeah, absolutely, unequivocally, an amazing cold opening. And also, dude, scroll down a little bit to Aaron's comment, because as I said, there are flaws in all of the movies and episodes. Not an unpopular opinion. The engine room from the Kelvin universe is an abomination, and Aaron has to drive by that dumb brewery nearly every day. Spot on. That is ridiculous, that engine room. It is just, and that whole scene with going through the pipes is one that, if there's anything that I just don't like watching, it's that whole, with Scotty, I didn't care for that. But other than that, I will always watch including Beyond. I will watch all of the Discovery movies because I think they're great.
You drive by an almost similarly
I do.
decorated Budweiser brewery in Merrimack, New
Yes.
Hampshire every day.
Every day. Yep.
10 Forward says in Into Darkness, the Kirk Spock relationship is bookended so well compared to the original series. It actually really is.
Good point.
I think they really do a great job with it in that movie. There are some things that Orci and Kurtzman get very right in that trilogy, and other things that are just so hopelessly wrong.
Well, good. That wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
The reactor in Into Darkness makes sense. I think that's still a stretch.
Yes and no,
but it's better than the engine room. I will agree to that.
First of all, I got to say with the reactor room and Beyond, I've always felt that he was hitting it at the wrong angle to try to move it, and it's very aggravating to watch that scene and be like, why are you doing it that way? Why aren't you doing it a different way to kick that thing back into alignment? Neither here nor there. But I thought that was a wasted space area on a starship for the reactor. I thought it was a little bit too big, a little bit too airy for just that one thing to kind of like kick it into place. But yes, you're right. But again, flaws in all the movies, but still fantastic. Love it.
All right, let's do one more and then we'll go to the sponsor break. And this one is one of mine, and it is Discovery has Trek's weakest writing. Now, before you think that I'm a Discovery hater, I am not.
Nope, we never have been.
I never have been. I've defended Discovery many times over the years, but its strongest season is its first season, and its weakest season is the fifth season, and they get progressively weaker with each successive season.
Mm-hmm.
Partly because Discovery stays so tied to the mystery box format that it never allows actual character growth. You get some, it's about this much, but for all the things we should know about some of these characters, and I'm not talking about the ancillary bridge crew, I'm talking about the main characters. We should know so much more. We should see so much more. I think that the mystery box format did Discovery a huge disservice. And then when you couple it with storylines where the entire universe is at risk every single season,
that's the problem.
That really is the problem. And then they said, well, we're not doing that in the fifth season, but they wound up doing that in the fifth season.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that does not take anything away from the cast, because the cast were fantastic. Love the actors in Discovery. They're all great. We've had an opportunity to become friends with a couple of them. They're fantastic. There's a difference between bad acting and weak writing. And I agree 100% with what you say, man. The first season was the best, got progressively worse. I thought, was it season 4? I forget which season was. I just kind of tuned out for quite a while and didn't have any interest in really picking it back up again. It's Star Trek, so I'll watch it and I will like it, but you don't have to love it. And I think you're absolutely right. Now, I will also say that there are some aspects of other shows that the writing was weak at times. I know that in Enterprise, here's an unpopular opinion that I didn't put on my list. I'm not a fan of the whole Xindi arc. I never have been. I thought it was confusing. I thought it was too weird to have the Xindi be so many different species and stuff like that. But yes, I think you're absolutely right. Discovery's writing went from its peak at the first season and just continued to slide.
And Aaron brings up a great point that I initially wanted to focus around, but I decided that it needed to be more all-encompassing. The jump to the 32nd century is one of the weakest excuses to advance those characters to the future. They said, Kurtzman and company said they didn't want to be burdened by canon. Well, you're going to be burdened by canon either way, because you're either creating new stuff or adhering to the old stuff while creating new stuff.
Yep.
Season 1 and 2 did a fine job of being in universe and still respecting everything that came before it.
Yep.
So they just wanted to jump the ship to the 32nd century is what it comes down to.
I'm sure you easily remember, I was pissed when they decided to do that. I thought it was a cop-out. I thought it was cheap. I didn't like what they did. And I think it affected the way that I looked at the rest of the series, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
doing what they did so that they wouldn't have to worry about past Star Trek and making sure it all tied together was just complete and utter laziness, in my opinion. Those writers knew what they were doing. That's one of the best things I like about modern Trek is you have people in the writers' room who love Trek as much as we do. So you know damn well that they're going to write good shit. But when they're given a palette that is as weak as the ones they were given, it's hard to build off it. And I think that's what they suffered from.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, writers do their job. They write. And when you tell them what the universe is, they write to it. And when you tell them what the rules are, they write to it. This whole idea that they had to jump to the 32nd century is just it's absurd. It's ludicrous.
Yeah.
They only did it so they could tie it back to the short trek, which was never supposed to be tied to it anyway.
Right.
Right. And that's really the ultimate slap in the face. So there we go. Those are the first 5 out of the way. We are going to step aside and do a quick sponsor break, talk about things like fan sets and kryptonite creations. And we are going to be right back. Dan, of course, we want to spend some time talking about our amazing sponsors at both Trek Geeks and Fans and Thursday Night Geeks. I'm getting ahead of myself. And that is, of course, our friends at Fansets, who we will see in 33 days at Star Trek Las Vegas. We are so grateful to have them on our side and to be partners with us for the last 9 years. And it's hard to believe it's been 9 years.
I know, right?
And it's just going to keep getting better, buddy.
It's like a Spurk relationship when you think of it. So
it's nothing like a Spurk.
Fan Geeks. Hey, look at that. We made a word. Anyway, yeah, you're absolutely right, man. I can't wait to see them in just over a month. They do such great work. They have over 500 officially licensed Star Trek pins. They got new stuff coming out every single month. Just this week, as we head into this long holiday weekend in the United States, you can head over to fansets.com and pick up these 3 brand new beauties. He's gone, but he's not forgotten, Bill. At least in the micro crew pin, it's Hemmer from Strange New Worlds. I don't know if this is the Gorn-infested version, but in whatever it is, it's right there for you to pick up right now. Also available.
We just had Bruce on, so maybe he could tell us.
It was, we'll have to get him to sign one or something like that. Also available is the latest Starfleet Academy pin, and it is the very recognizable Command pin. Lovely Delta in there. I love the colors in that. It's really cool.
Yeah, that is nice.
This one is great. I love it. From the Dedication Plaque series, it's the USS Enterprise with a lens flare twist, my friend. It's the beautiful shininess of the Kelvin universe Enterprise. It's right there. It's beautiful. We were just talking about the Kelvin movie. So this is a great one, and it does shine. That is a shiny metal that they did on that one there. So go get it right now. They're all available right now at fansets.com.
It's shiny like the top of your head, quite frankly.
It is very shiny head right there. Yes, it is.
Of course, new releases. We love seeing those from Fansets. So the 1st and 15th of every month. And of course, I'm going to tell you what I do every single episode. Get on out to fansets.com. Get all those brand new pins and even the ones from the last few episodes of Thursday Night Geeks. Put them all in your cart. And when you put them in your cart, at checkout, use the special discount code TrekGeeks for 10% off your entire order. That's Trek Geeks, like you see on the screen there, in all capital letters with no spaces, to get 10% off your next order at fansets.com. And of course, Dan, I'm gonna remind you what I always remind you of. Remember, when you spend more than $30 on fansets.com, you automatically get what?
Free shipping.
Free shipping on Fansets. That's your cue.
Fansets. That was a dramatic pause. Our pins have character, and we thank our friends at Fansets for being the presenting sponsor of Thursday Night Geeks.
Moving on, we're going to talk about our friend JC at Kryptonite Creations, who was in the chat earlier. JC, good to see you, man.
Throwing me some shade.
Throwing you some well-deserved shade. I got a big box from JC today. In it were some lightsabers, which are across the room, which, by the way, light up and have sound.
What?
Oh, they're cool.
Wow.
But I also got...
Let's see it.
Let's
see it. Look at that. Jamaharam. Look at that. That is gorgeous. It looks like wood.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I got a Horgon. You can draw your own conclusions from my putting this on display. Riker would be proud. But Dan, I got one more thing.
Oh boy.
That I'm about to show you. And JC tells me, actually, let me read the message for him.
Oh, here we go.
Because you're not going to believe this, Dan.
Okay.
Oops, that's the wrong one.
Yeah, don't read anything we don't want to hear.
Anyone who orders from Kryptonite Creations tonight, use the discount code TrekGeeks, and you can get a full-size Back to the Future hoverboard for 50% off.
Oh my God.
Plus shipping. That's tonight before midnight Eastern Daylight Time. Man. So 11:59 p.m. on July 3rd, 2025. Go to kryptonitecreations.myshopify.com.
Look at
you
that.
See the whole thing there, even the back of it with sort of the anti-grav
so if
modules there.
The lightsabers light up enough sound, does that have anti-grav that works?
You'll have to find out for yourself.
That's right, because it's 50% off. That is beautiful. And you know what's interesting?
Yeah. Go ahead. Where else can you get a hoverboard for $50?
I know, right? What's interesting, and even though that's from part 2, interesting that this special is today as we are live, because July 3rd, 40 years ago, Back to the Future was released. 40 years ago today.
I'm sorry, you're just too loud. So yeah, get on out to Kryptonite Creations. You know, JC's working hard. He was he was under the weather for a bit, but he's back now, and it's good to have him back in the fold.
Absolutely.
You know, he's a good guy, and you know, the nice thing is that this is just affordable 3D printing type stuff, right?
It is.
You see other stuff, and it's priced egregiously, and you know, with JC, it's affordable, and he's working hard to get it out there for you. So that's, yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Bill, as we're talking about all the great things that JC makes over at Kryptonite Creations, you have your Horgon in the background. And I'm going to point out a little something that's not related to JC, but it makes me think of you and your Horgon. You could wrap yourself up in the lovely Star Trek t-shirt blanket that I had made, which has all of our logos and our Vegas trips there. Had that made up to display while we broadcast, and I could see you wrapping up in that thing with someone with your little Horgon statue there at some point in the future. Not me, of course, because it's no deal, it's no band. Just make that clear.
And there never will be. I just want to make that clear. You took this to a really weird place.
But sorry,
and it's a sponsor segment.
Yeah. AVN winner 5 times. I got to think of something like that, right?
5-time AVN winner. So it's kryptonitecreations.myshopify.com. We'll be right back with some more unpopular opinions. Don't go anywhere. All right, and we are back. Hope you notice on that sort of Trek Geek Shop ad, there was a little spinning.
I was just dying reading it.
That's a nod to the Filmation, credits on the animated series.
Nice.
For the creators, whose name I know Aaron knows this. Like it's nobody's business, but it's escaping me right now. Hal Sutherland and some other dude. So anyway, Dan, back to unpopular Star Trek opinions.
Yes.
It's oh no. This is
no, it's not canon. It's not canon, and it's very unpopular opinion.
JC says, can we mute Dan?
Actually, they do have the power to do that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I have the power to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't.
Well, I do, but I don't want to.
So suck it.
Wow. Okay. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, back to unpopular opinions as we kind of bring up the the back 5, I guess we will call it the back 9. We're not playing
Sure.
golf, so
No, true.
I guess where that leaves us on number 6, which I believe is you.
Oh, okay.
I forget what this one is, so I'm going to bring it up and I'll let you read it and then
Okay.
and explain and defend your position.
Yes. The Enterprise F should have been named the USS Picard, more for audience reaction. And even though Picard is still alive at the time that this ship is named and they see it at the end of Picard season 3, I just think that with everything that Picard has done over the course of his career and everything that we saw happen at the end of Picard season 3, when they were in the shuttle talking and kind of rising up to go over the saucer, I was saying to Sue, it's going to be the Picard. It's going to be the Picard. Oh my God, I'm going to go freaking crazy. And I was excited to see the Enterprise. Is it F or G? Did I say that wrong?
Oh, no,
Yeah,
G. It would be G.
it is the G. Yeah, it is the G. Sorry, that was my bad. I was happy, but it was kind of a little bit of a letdown. I would admit. It would have been great to see as Picard, because then Beverly could have had that look on her face as he realizes what it is. He probably would have been mad and not wanted it, but too bad, Admiral, you suck it, like you just said a minute ago, Bill. But that would have been something that I would like to, and I'm not sure. I think a lot of people liked it being the Enterprise, so that's why I consider it an unpopular opinion.
It's unpopular with me. Your opinion, that is.
Yes.
And 5-year mission did
Yes.
call you out. You mean the G?
It is the G. Yeah.
I can't agree with this. There's always been an Enterprise. There will always be an Enterprise. I can't agree with Jason, who says enough with the USS Enterprise. No, because it's Star Trek and Enterprise is always the flagship.
But here's my counter to that, Bill, because you're right. It is the flagship. There was an Enterprise F that we never saw. So who's to say that this could have been the Picard, but then there was another class of starship right coming out the hangar bay doors that could have been the Enterprise a little further down the road.
We did see the Enterprise F in Star Trek Picard when it was being decommissioned on Federation Day. That's what Shelby was aboard.
Was the F.
Yes.
That's right, it was. But it was this. You're right. There's always going to be an Enterprise, and I'm saying if this was named the Picard, that doesn't mean that another ship wouldn't eventually become the Enterprise G. I just think it would have been a great, a much better happiness for Jean-Luc moment if it had been Picard, in my eyes, anyway.
I think that the Enterprise, although he was a captain before, I think the Enterprise was the one that means the most to him, and I think that that's probably why it wound up that way.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I have to agree with Aaron's comment here. He says they shouldn't have stripped the Titan of its name. That was super disrespectful to all the people who died on that ship. I actually do agree with that.
Yeah.
If anything, I think it should have been the Titan still. But I can't.
That's okay.
I can't do it.
That's why it's an unpopular opinion. But I do like, I'm getting some love in some of the comments about how they like the idea. It just was something that I would have liked. It would have been a really cool moment.
Chris Humphrey says Dan was wrong. Well, if he'd showed up for the beginning of this, he would have known that nobody's wrong. It's just our opinions.
Nice job, Humphrey.
Yeah, that's
you're wrong for spouting an opinion when you don't really have all the facts. So why don't you just be quiet?
Did I say that out loud? Yeah, Wyatt. Hey, Wyatt, good to see you. This would have been that would have been good too. Jack going to the Stargazer would have been amazing.
Yeah, it would have.
I think that would have been really cool.
Yeah. And okay. I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I'm going off on a tangent. So we're talking about the Enterprise G and how 7 is captain and Jack is there and everybody's there. I do not think that the command crew that they picked for the bridge would have been something that would have been the right decision by upper brass on the new flagship Enterprise G. Jack had even finished his training, has even finished the academy or anything like that. And of course, all the problems with oh God, I'm having
your face.
My face, yeah. As first officer, I thought that was a little questionable. It's okay.
Rafi?
Rafi, yeah. with the stuff that she went through, and now all of a sudden she's the first officer of the flagship, and we have an ex-Borg as captain, and we have someone who was a pirate and had all kinds of trouble with the law as the
This is another comment of the night.
because
Jack Helen says Jack was only there because he's a Nepo baby. That's not wrong.
Yep, I love it.
That's not wrong.
That's great.
And Aaron says also Jack on the USS Picard would have been even more awkward than Mariner and Captain Freeman. Yes, that's a
true.
fact.
That's true. Yep.
All right, let's cruise along to opinion number 7, which is mine. I don't remember which one this is, and there's one of these that's going to be pretty much hated. So, but let's go with it. Yeah, this is one of them. These are the voyages. The series finale of Star Trek Enterprise gets a lot of hate. It's not a bad episode of Star Trek. It's a terrible finale. But it is not a bad episode, even with the Riker stuff. Okay. Even with the whole Trip dying, which I'm fine with, quite honestly, because it's space and space is dangerous, and this happens sometimes. It's a perfectly fine episode of Star Trek. There are episodes that are far worse.
I don't disagree with you. I don't think it was a fantastic episode. I agree. It was a horrible finale for a series that went 4 seasons. I felt that what happened in the episode was more insulting to the cast that put in those 4 years, because they were kind of like the B plot, kind of pretty much for the whole episode of the finale of their series. And then they did the whole, the way that it ended with all the different ships from the various shows showing up with the famous taglines being read. But it's not a bad episode. It's you know what? I'll pick Shades of Grey over Voyages as being a worse episode, or Code of Honor or something like that. I'll sit and watch These Are the Voyages. I won't watch Code of Honor. So yeah, I don't think that's a bad episode at all. I'm not sure what people are saying in the chat. I haven't started reading because I've been flapping my gums, but I agree with you, man.
So Jeffrey Scott says it never happened. Steve says, to me, the Riker thing is just funny. I agree with that. It's kind of an interesting place they put Riker in 10 years after the episode that kind of spawned it.
Yeah.
Jason says the episode was not a bad episode, just not a good finale. Wyatt says Trip's death felt empty. I always felt having TNG cast members took away from what Enterprise had done up till then.
That's what I mean.
A 5-year mission. It was a decent episode, a bad season finale, and a terrible series finale. I can't disagree with that.
Yep.
Aaron, but they needed to spend a little more attention to detail when recreating the Pegasus. Again, not wrong, my friend.
Yep.
Not wrong.
Well, he is hitting home runs all night, like you said.
I know. It's dingers right and left.
Awesome.
And he doesn't even watch sports ball. I think that, it suffers from, the fact that Enterprise was canceled and there was nothing after that. If this had been a mid-season episode, during sweeps to bring back Riker, I think it would have been fine. I think people would largely be like, oh yeah, it's that episode.
Yeah.
But because it's, started what Larry Nemechek calls the dark times, before, Star Trek 2009, I think it catches an unnecessary amount of shit, and it shouldn't.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great opinion. I think you're getting a lot of love also from everybody watching. And yeah, I like it. Like I said, not the best episode, but there are several that I would pass by and stop at that one. So
justice for Trip. Hashtag justice for Trip. I love it. So I think that puts us on, was that 7? That was 7. So we're on to number 8.
Yeah. This one's going to be unpopular to a lot of people.
For once, you're the even numbers, which doesn't happen often on Trek.
Doesn't. Yep. This is one that I think people are going to hate me for.
Dan says Ro is a terrible character before Picard.
I
defend.
Every episode that Ro Laren is in, I don't like. I never have liked. I probably never will like. I don't like the character. And if people are going to say, well, do you like Kira? Yeah, I love Kira. Well, isn't Kira and Ro almost the same kind of character? As a matter of fact, Ro wanted to be, they actually talked about Ro being Kira's character. No, I don't agree. I think Ro's character is one-dimensional. I am not a huge fan of Michelle's acting as Ro. except for Picard. And that's nothing against Michelle. I love Michelle on a lot of stuff that she does. I just did not like the Ro character. I think it was, I don't know. Mistake's not the right word because it was crucial to a lot of storyline. But I'm sorry, I'm not a Ro fan. Never have been. I don't think I ever will be. Except for Picard. That episode with Picard, 30 years later, 40 years later, I loved her in it. She got the redemption's the right word, but she got everything fixed with Picard, which I thought was very important. She sacrificed herself to save everyone. And I loved what Michelle did in that episode. Everything was great. The way that she talked to him when she was mad at him and when she was saying goodbye to him from the shuttle. I mean, all of those things were great. But prior to Picard, I don't like Ro.
I've never liked Ro, and I think I've brought that up on Trek Geeks many times, largely because the character is written extremely poorly. I understand why they brought that character on, because they needed to kind of further the Maquis a little bit, especially to get to Voyager. Even though that may or may not have been on the drawing board at that point, I think that it was necessary to sort of draw that out. But the character herself is kind of meh. I mean, there are a good number of episodes where she just sits at con and essentially performs the Wesley role of just tapping buttons.
Yeah.
There are other episodes where she contributes quite a bit as kind of a foil. Disaster's a great one. I think it's Disaster. I always confuse Disaster and the other one.
Another one.
Yep. Yep. The one where she and Geordi are out of phase is stupid. Because why don't they pass through the floor? I don't understand. What was that? What was that?
Rascals is another one.
Rascals. That's another horrible episode.
Yep.
But
now let me ask you a question, because this is interesting. A lot of the episodes we're talking about, we agree are not the best of episodes. Is it because Ro's in them, or is it because they just were bad episodes? I mean, that's where I struggle. Now let's see if you put somebody else in Ro's spot in some of those episodes, would it have been a better episode?
I don't think they're bad because of Ro. I think they're bad because the episodes are just flawed. I don't think that her character makes them any better.
Yeah. Okay.
There's no improvement.
Just curious what your thought was on that.
Yeah. Helen says, I agree with Dan. I never liked Ro. Jesse says, no, I can see that, Dan. Okay. Ross says, for once I agree with Dan. She was forced into the cast and she just didn't mesh for me. Way to go, Ross.
Good point.
You were always my favorite. Even when she was out of phase with Geordi. Gordie Howe, legendary Hartford Whalers player.
Yeah, that episode. I mean, there's some good parts out of that episode, but
in
closure.
Picard,
that's the word I was looking for. Yep.
She did. I could have taken or left that scene. I was not excited to see Ro come back. I didn't think it was terrible. I was glad that she and Picard had that moment, but if it didn't happen, I would not have been upset.
Okay. There was also discussion that they had actually written that she did not die in that explosion and that she was taken prisoner by the Dominion and was being held in the same cell as Tuvok, but they couldn't put it in the budget. So that would have been interesting to see if they were able to do that.
That's very possible. I could see that happening. It's entirely possible. Well, what's the rule in comic books? Never believe they're dead until you see a body, and even then. I think that's a definite possibility.
Yep.
So I don't think that opinion was as unpopular as you thought.
Yeah,
it might have been, Dan.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to go into my last unpopular opinion, and this is one that I know I'm going to catch hell for somewhere. I've seen comments about it recently, and I just every time it comes up, I bristle and I shake my head, and it's this: Galaxy Quest is not Star Trek. Yes, it is an homage. Yes, it's even a parody at times with how Shatner and related to the cast and the whole convention circuit. But it lacks Star Trek's heart. It lacks, sort of the hope and optimism that Star Trek has. It just is not Star Trek. I get that people want to consider it a Star Trek movie, and if that's the joy that it brings you, awesome, go for it. but both it and the Orville, neither of them are Star Trek. They both want to be Star Trek. They're both loving homages, but they're not the original thing.
I don't think this has ever happened in all of the years that we've been doing the podcast and for the 6-7 months that we've been doing this show. I think I have agreed with everything you have said tonight. Galaxy Quest is not Star Trek. Otherwise, it would be called Star Trek Galaxy Quest, right? I mean, hello. It's a comedy. I understand, and you're absolutely right. It is an homage to Star Trek. It is the love of Star Trek that this movie was made to be like. That does not make it Star Trek in any way, shape, or form. Same with the Orville. I've never watched more than 4 minutes of the Orville, but I know people talk about how it's Star Trek, and I'm like, no, it's not. It's a wannabe. But you are 100% spot on, and this is one argument that I would argue to people about is when people say this. I love Galaxy Quest. It's a fun movie. There are some great Star Trek references, and it's awesome that they do that, but it's not Star Trek. I'm sorry, it isn't.
Yeah, and there are people out there who say, if you don't believe that Galaxy Quest is Star Trek, then blank, then you hate whatever. And it's just not true. It's okay to think that Galaxy Quest is not Star Trek for the very thing you said, Dan. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not Star Trek Galaxy Quest. Even the name is an homage to Star Trek.
Right. Yeah.
A quest Galaxy. Being a trek.
Yeah,
and Galaxy
absolutely.
Having stars. I mean,
yep.
It's you'd be surprised the number of people who defend it like it is. And Matt brings up a great point. Spaceballs is not Star Wars. It absolutely is.
Boom.
Not.
Yep, absolutely. And do you see now? That's an awesome point. Do you see people arguing about Spaceballs being Star Wars? No. So why do we have this argument? Because that is the same thing. We're talking the same type of thing here when we're talking about both Star Wars and Star Trek. And also, I do want to see the Orville. I just haven't watched it yet. And Wyatt had a good point that we have Galaxy Quest and Orville because of Star Trek. He's 100% right. It's not Star Trek because of that, but we have it because of that. And I think that's a good thing.
I've seen the Orville and I watched it begrudgingly and I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in the first couple of seasons, it tries too hard for dick and fart jokes. And in the last season or two, I forget how many there are, it tries too hard to be aspirational to the point where it seems way too earnest.
Gotcha.
They've even ripped off an entire episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine in the Orville, and Trek fandom didn't say a word, or most of Trek fandom didn't say a word. There's an episode that literally rips off the entire plot of the Deep Space Nine episode of Man Alone from season 1.
Oh, really?
Yep. Every last bit of it, right down to the cloning.
Wow.
So, John says even Star Trek isn't original Star Trek. How many times has modern Trek encountered an alien species that can teach us something good? Well, I honestly think that's the evergreen promise of Star Trek. Nothing is the original Star Trek, but every Star Trek that has come since then has kind of lived up to those values. Even Discovery, even Picard. It's all about honoring what came before, and I think they all do that.
Yeah. To one of the things that Wyatt brought up as a question is, wasn't Seth MacFarlane in Enterprise? Yes, he absolutely was, and it's his love of Star Trek that actually got him to do the Orville. So yeah, he was in one episode. I forget what character he played, but
Brandon Braga, is the co-executive producer, and Andre Bormanis works on it, and other people from Star Trek have worked on the Orville. I think like Drexler and
Billingsley
and others. And Picardo, but I just mean behind the scenes, creating the show.
Yep.
Spaceballs is better. I actually am looking forward to seeing Spaceballs, the sequel. So that's that's kind of how I feel.
And like I said, 100% agree with you, man. So,
all right. Well, let's move on to your last,
I think
unpopular opinion, and then we've got a bonus one.
Okay. Before you bring it up, though, I'm going to say I think that this is.
I'm not done. I know we're over time, and we promise that we're not going to keep you all night. But we will move on to the bonus one after this last one.
Okay, cool. I was going to say this might not be as unpopular as I originally thought when I wrote it down, because I think a lot of people may agree with this, but I do know that some people don't. Jellicoe was a fantastic captain. Absolutely fantastic. I love the character. I love that they brought him back in Prodigy. I think Jellicoe was a fantastic captain, and Riker was a dick first officer during those 2 episodes, Chain of Command. He knows the rules. He has a plan. He is by the book, and he doesn't take shit from anybody. And it's not a family to him like it is to other captains, not taking anything away from either, but he has a different command style. That doesn't make him a bad captain. As a matter of fact, I think he was fantastic. Plain and simple.
We both know people who will disagree with this vehemently, like Jim Morehouse, our good friend. I believe Jellicoe was a fine captain. In the beginning of that episode, when command of the Enterprise isn't given to Riker, he pulls an eye roll on Nechayev, like wide open. He acts like a spoiled child, and he acts totally unlike Riker.
Yeah.
You know, the first officer's job is to execute the captain's vision. I think we've talked about this before on Trek Geeks. And he fails from the moment that command is given to Edward Jellicoe. Instead of doing what the captain orders and anticipating what needs to be done and preparing for a potential war with Cardassia, Riker takes his ball and goes home.
Yep, absolutely. Steve brings up the fact that he's a great leader, not a great people person, which is half of being a leader. I don't disagree with that at all. But here's my counter argument to that. He is new to this ship. He needs to get to know everybody and how they are and not assign that duty off to Deanna like he did. But at the same time, you just talked about it. They're on the brink of going to war with Cardassia, and he's in charge of this plan to try to get things straightened out, talk to the Cardassians, see what's going on. There's time for that stuff later. I'm all for being a people person, and you want your boss to be good and you want to get along. But in this type of situation, I can totally understand that he had more important things to take care of.
And Jesse brings up a great point. The only reason no one liked him is because he, quote, wasn't Picard, end quote, and that was the point. He knew what he was doing. He put Riker in his place and got Troy to wear her uniform. I actually am in the minority. I don't like the fact that Troy is forced to wear a uniform because part of Jean's original vision, and I hate that phrase too, was that, you know, she wasn't dressed like the rest of the crew so that she as a psychologist was more approachable, you know, so that people could relate to her better. I get why. I know Marina wanted to wear the uniform. I understand, you know, but if we're comparing Kirk and Jellicoe, they're not that far off. If we're comparing Kirk and Picard, they're completely different. And yes, this is Picard's crew.
Right.
Aaron says he was a good captain for a different ship. Absolutely.
Yep.
But things were what they were, and he needed to take command of the Enterprise, even though Riker saved the Federation.
And he must have done a super job because he's Admiral by the time Prodigy rolls around, spoiler alert. So it's really good to see him. And it was also good to see Ronnie Cox come back and voice him.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt says a bit of an authoritarian polar opposite of Picard. Couldn't agree more.
Yep. He's no Janeway though, right, McGonagall?
Garcia is back behind a keyboard. Who taught him how to type? Jeez. They're actually... They are actually in the Royal Navy since World War I and World War II, things known as war captains. That's what Jellicoe was. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why Nechayev put him in command of the Enterprise.
Yep. Agreed.
Jim's here. Jim
there he is.
Jellicoe. I respect that.
Yep.
I respect that.
Yeah, he's a jerk. He's like you, Bill. He's curmudgeon. He's old and he's cantankerous. But I still thought it was a fantastic captain.
Yeah. So okay, so there we are. That is our first 10. There's a bonus one that I wanted to bring up.
Here we go.
Because this is always, nobody has an opinion on this. Actually, let me take down Jim's comment real quick before I progress, because I already got past me. And that is this. Canon sucks. And our dear friend James Kerwin gets on me for this at times, or has in the past. I think that canon is useless. I don't think we should really just keep tying things back to canon. There's continuity and there's canon. I think what most Star Trek fans believe is canon is actually the continuity of the universe. Look at Batman. How many times has his origin story been told? And his parents have been killed by at least 4 different people that I know of. Whether it's Jack Napier or the Joker outright, or Joe Chill or some other unnamed dude. You know, or how many different versions of the Batcave or the Batsuit, or how many origin stories have there been for Batman just in the movies? You know, or James Bond. That character has been recreated how many times over the last 60 years? Even in the books. So, you know, I think as long as it tells a good story, as long as it stays true to what the heart of Star Trek is, let's just stop worrying about canon. And I
Yeah.
realize that this is a complete contradiction to my very first unpopular opinion, and I can reconcile that because if we're not going to worry about canon, then we don't have to worry about, in my mind, something like Lower Decks.
Yeah.
What do
I'll
you
tell
think?
you what, I don't mind canon. I think it's fun when we get to tie all these things together and we recognize stuff that from whatever. It's fun, but it can be problematic, as we know, in pointing out canon mistakes or choosing to throw a series completely in a different direction just because you want to avoid it because you're scared. So, yeah, it's got its good points, it's got its bad points. I don't disagree with you. I don't think I'm as strong as an opinion about it as you have, but you're not wrong. Um, it it can be. I can only imagine what it could have been like in a writer's room, knowing that they had to make sure everything was right so that people wouldn't get pissed off about canon. I
Yeah,
mean, that must have been just like that must have drove people crazy because no matter how hard they tried, there are always episodes, every single episode, well, that's not canon. This is blah, 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 blah. And they'll come up with all the information. And that is a burdensome part of the franchise, that aspect of it. But at the
sure.
same time, it can be fun as a viewer watching stuff and and recognizing all kinds of things.
Absolutely. I want to go back to the last unpopular opinion of mine. Um, that or maybe it was, I forget now. It's about Troy. Jellicoe was yours.
Jellicoe.
Dave Gregory says Troy's outfit when removed is no larger than a cocktail napkin. I don't think that's true. You remember that sort of teal dress that she wore that was long and flowy, her jumpsuits, covered just about everything.
Mhm. I think it was just
Maybe
the
wore
first
some.
season. The she had like a scant's not the right word that we wore,
In
but
the premiere, she wore a scant.
yeah,
Every episode after that, she wore kind of a jumpsuit that kind of went along with it. It wasn't like the 7 of 9 cat suit, but probably was a precursor to that.
yeah.
But it was certainly way larger than a cocktail napkin, I think. Um,
All I can think of right now is Dax's outfit in Bada Bing Bada Bang. As
yeah,
the
yeah,
lead.
yeah,
That's what I'm thinking of right now.
yeah. John, I don't agree. I don't disagree. The Joker killing Batman's parents is just stupid. It is. Ross McKinney says bat nipples. I think that's really all you need to know. Um,
Mhm.
this has got to be Mike then.
I was
Yeah,
drinking.
5 year mission says DC has to have a crisis every 3 years to fix it. 100% true.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, Jesse says Bill's canon sucks fits with Dan's Kelvin universe love. People didn't care for Kelvin because it messed with canon, but it still had a good story and represented Trek well. I could agree with that.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
think that it's a great way to extend the storytelling in Star Trek, and take these characters to different places. I think it's
It's
fantastic.
It's funny because and I know we're way over, but it's funny because I think of what I said about the Kelvin universe, and I'm surprised I haven't heard people say, "Well, don't you think by splitting off and making this other universe is similar to throwing the Discovery into the 32nd century?" And I don't. I don't agree with that at all.
No, Jim Stoffel, home run. James R. Kirk, anybody?
Home run. Yep.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, um, and I think that's
That was
Steve. We need a crisis event in Trek. I think it would look like season 3 of Picard, just if they brought every show back.
yeah. Oh
Um,
my god, can you
that
imagine?
would have been. They don't have the budget for that, and they never
No,
would. So
that would be billions.
yeah. So, Dan, that's going to do it for unpopular opinion. See, I told you this could be fun.
That was, you know what? We have to do Unpopular 2 at some point because this is
Part
pretty
deux.
Yeah. Yeah.
Part deux, like
The
Hot
search
Shots.
for
Part
more
deux.
opinions. Yes.
The search for worse opinions. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Okay.
I think that's fantastic. First, we want to thank everybody. We had a lot of new viewers tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. If you would, please like and subscribe the Trek Geeks channel on YouTube or share this video wherever you consumed it. That would help us out a great deal as we try to build the Thursday night audience. We have a lot of fun doing this show every week. And for those of you listening to the audio, feel free to join us any Thursday night on YouTube, Facebook, or
Yes.
Instagrams as we do Thursday Night Geeks, the video version. As Burley says, smash that thumbs up. I like that.
Boom. Smash it.
It's so great to be here. Dan, next week I think you're on vacation, are you not?
Yes, we are heading to the lovely hills in Maine.
So we will not be here next Thursday, but 2 Thursdays after that, we'll have another topic that I'm sure drives Dan insane. Perhaps we'll do our Vegas preview as we get ready for Star Trek Las Vegas.
Yes,
and have some special folks on to talk about that.
And of course, coming up not too in the far distant future on Thursday Night Geeks, we'll be talking about every episode of Strange New Worlds when they come out.
Yes, we will. Actually, that's the week after. So actually 2 weeks from tonight, we start with Strange New Worlds coverage and season premiere.
Hegemony, part 2.
Yeah, hegemony. That's right. Thank you for reminding me, because Strange New Worlds is coming back. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us, taking the time. We appreciate you all, and we know that you have a million other options on a Thursday night, and we're just overjoyed that you spent it with us. So until 2 weeks from tonight in Strange New Worlds, we do hope you all live long and prosper. Take care, everybody.
Good night, all. Coconut. I did it.